kii Sonko so ba tey si budget bi office of the president comme li nga xam ne moom lañ estimate pour jox ko boo ko compare ak ministry of youth and sport moo ko ëpp fuuf nga ñëwaat ba ci agriculture so yow nan ngay jàngati loolu doo am na xëy na comme ni ko Dabaax waxee rek mais bi am na yeneen bànqaas yoo xam ne dafa nekk ci biir office of the president but anyway gis nañ ne ministry of youth and sport dañu wàññi li nga xam ne mooy ci budgetam bi ak agriculture so ban analyse ngay def ci loolu Sonko.
Thank you so much Garme foog naa ne suma naataangoo yi wax nañ lu bari. wax nañ lu bari si affaire office of the president. So one thing is very important here wala mu ñu ko office of the president now let's look at office of the president side office Juma Lebije doku la Juma Lebije ibe department jellebe office of the president's court because look one thing we need to understand office of the president amanke only Gambia than Mati. Every country have office of the president. But how the office of the president operate Kanyame? This is what we need to look at. In the office of the president, the structure of our office of the president and the structure of some of the countries in our office of the president is completely different. Because when this government came, they made the system. Let's call it a spade. And they see that the system favors them and they leave the system as it is. Because what happened, how many departments or how many agencies are under the office of the president? Nyajibe disaster. You understand? National statistic. All those ones they are directly under the office of the president. This is something we understand. But should those departments be under the office of the president? This is one thing we need to look at very well. And how much are they generating for the country? This is one thing also Nyandaka very well. Because Nyajibe, obviously the president, is the president. Nyajibe, Naba Nyama, in serious countries. Obviously the president is the president, the secretary of state, the chief of staff, and the members of the cabinet, and some of the technicians there. But if you go into government's office of the president, how many departments, how many permanent secretaries, how many permanent secretaries are there? How many advisors are there? How many protocols are there? How many people are in office of the president? They are not benefiting this country. They are not doing anything for the country, but for the president. Salary earners. This is something this is why every year you will hear that office of the president, expenditure is going to go high. Because the president is hiring more people, is patronizing more people, giving them opportunities for them to get into the government. Imagine what we had. Almost 3.6 million goes to the advisors. 7 advisors. What are they advising the president for? When already we have ministers. How many ministerial positions we have in this country? What are those ministers doing? Because they are like a ministerial document. Ministerial document and our technicians, we know them. But obviously the president is overloaded. If the office of the president is overloaded, we must expect heavy budget. So we must offload office of the president first before we talk about their budget. This is let us be fair in that. Because the office is already overloaded. So this is why they're giving more money to the office of the president. And in fact, one thing we need to understand, whenever we talk about the exit plan of the president, people will feel like, oh no, maybe it's not true. But I believe some of these games or some of these criminal games they're building is all about the president's planning to exit, planning to leave power and try to enrich himself into power. And the people around him. It's just a kind of mafia game. All this money, we must know the actuals and know where the actuals knew where did they do the expenditure first. Because last year, how many billions, also how many millions was given to the office of the president? Let the presidency tell us where did they spend that money first? Who and who? Which department? Which permanent secretary? Let us know that first. Nina Long is going to give us a clue of why the presidents added there. But let me tell you something. You see, like Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Youth, let me tell you, because they give no regard to that ministry. And I mean, I concur with him. Huh? If you look at, for example, Jamaica, you go even Senegal right now, Sadio Mane, how many millions Sadio Mane is bringing into Senegal? How many millions? How many millions is added into the economy of Senegal? And in fact, let me tell you some of the players in Senegal, the government can even take loan from them with keeper interest. Because they already have money to give it to the government, or they already have money to invest it into a higher investment, create job opportunities for their people. But Gambia government is not thinking about that. The Minister of Finance is always thinking, how am I going to empower the president? The president will empower Anyadi. How many money may be allocated for the president so that he can be rich? But they are not thinking, how many money are we going to invest on the youth? So this is why it's high time for the youths. It's high time putting in Bankola funding. Understand this leadership, President Barrow leadership, President Barrow presidency gives no regard to the youths. One thing, let's say Minister of Youth and Minister of Sports, they should be completely divided. Minister of Youth, what should they do now? Because the number of unemployment, the number of youths who are unemployed, the percentage sign. The government should think of what should we do to make sure that the percentage of youths they are unemployed, we create employment for them. How are we going to create employment for those people? Now, the government should also see the scope. How many governments are now investing into football? How many governments are now investing into sport? How did the government, government sports empower Nyadile to put more money on sport so that we can have more talented youths in our country, and those youths, the money they will bring, Yankuba Minte. How much money Yankuba Minte is earning? How many Gambians are benefiting from the little Yankuba is earning? How much is, how much increment mentally into our remittance? So this is what a productive government will always think about. But let me tell you something, Garmi. You see, no, I just want to just give you a minute.
Why? Okay.
One thing left I will follow Minduko. Gambia is going to develop. I think it's high time now, these ministries now, we leave ministries to concentrate on policy making. And we have a department, or a ministry, is going to be there for services. And this services is not only going to be, let's say, depending only on health, or depending only on infrastructure, or depending only on agriculture. Because we will, let's say, if you have a specific ministry, you give more technical expert of that ministry, and that ministry be given a specific budget, and this budget, the other ministries will be supervising to see that the budget allocated to this very ministry to make sure to have an increment, adjustment on our agriculture, adjustment in our, in our health, adjustment in our roads. So I think that will give Gambians hope to see that our money or our tax is going into somewhere. But now look at, let me tell you something, how many grants is coming to Ministry of Agriculture? How many grants is coming into all these ministries now? But at the end of it, the grants will just go in vain. We will not see any impact. We will not see any development in our country. So what I am saying, the kind of governance system we have in this country, we must change the dynamic. If the dynamic did not change, I am telling you there will be no changes in our budget system, because government will, the ministry will always be thinking of how much money I'm going to give it to my friend who is in this ministry so that he can give me so and so kickback. This is what is happening in this country. All right. Yes.